Thank you, Jacob. Good evening, Mayor and Council, for the May 23rd Council briefing. We've got 5 items on the agenda tonight to present some information to you. The first 2 items, A and B, are both related to finance. And I'm going to turn that over to Ashley Gossett. She's going to talk to you a little bit about the assumptions for our fiscal year 2023 budget preparation, and then talk to you about the 2023 budget workshop schedule. With that, Ashley, the floor is yours.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I think this is the 4th year that we've put the budget assumptions in front of y'all to talk about ahead of the budget workshop. So I'll just go ahead and dive right in. Our overarching goals with our budget is our financial assumptions, and that is that, our revenue estimates are realistic. And our expenditure estimates include contingencies that are also reasonably predictable. Revenues of a limited or indefinite term are not used to fund ongoing operations, and our fund balance reserves are maintained to kind of handle any shortfalls or inflation. So the budget assumptions we use for the fiscal 2023 proposed budget are that we keep the millage rate the same at 3.9947. We have not yet received property tax estimates from the county. We'll get our first estimate on June 1st, and then we'll get the DR 420 on July 1st. We are expecting increases in property taxes, but we don't know exactly to what level yet and what kind of changeovers would be homesteaded. We're also projecting a 50% return of the South End TIF dollars. This would be the 3rd or 4th years that we're budgeting the 50% return. And just to give some context around that, that return generates about $750,000 a year to the general fund, which is equivalent to 0.2445 mils. So the other revenues that we're projecting are our state shared revenues. And right now we're using kind of realistic based on our past experience. This state releases their estimates late June to mid-July, so we can program those in. But right now we're looking at kind of past experience. Our utility revenues, our rates are the same. We have a CPI adjustment in water sewer, and our projections are based on consumption levels historically, and then also if we see new developments coming in, then we'll adjust for that. And then our grant revenues, we typically do not budget those unless we have the receipt in hand. So with the ARPA revenues or the ARPA grant, we have tagged some capital improvement projects to that grant. So that's the total kind of the revenue side of things. For our expenditures, our personal services, we budget all positions being filled with no lapse. And so typically that leads to the end of the year, we have a little surplus because it'd be nice to be 100% staffed 100% of the year. Our pension contributions reflect the most recent actuarial valuation, and we are adding a deputy property and procurement position to the proposed budget for consideration by council. So that's +1 position in the 23 budget. Our operating costs, the instructions given to the departments were to budget their operating costs continuing the same service levels. And so we are seeing increases in operating budgets with inflationary kind of requests from vendors or agreements within our contracts. In our capital outlay, we've prepared the 5-year CIP plan. We're seeing kind of dollar increases in there based on inflation estimates. And we are adjusting our capitalization policy to be $5,000 for equipment. Historically, it's been $1,000. And so this year we are moving it to $5,000 for vehicles and equipment. And I think I already touched on the 5-year capital improvement plans. And then we use the transfers to kind of fund long-term projects. And we are anticipating being able to do the same this year as we've done in prior years. And that's where we build up reserves for the police vehicle replacements, our computer replacements, and then our larger building facility projects. So the kind of challenges that we're seeing with the 23 year, is what we've brought in front of council in the last couple of months is we're seeing exceptionally long lead times for materials and vehicles. So we've had to adjust kind of our approach to that. We had a zero response to one of our bids for the downtown parking and site furnishings. That that was highly unusual for us to get no respondents to that when we sent it out to a significant amount of potential vendors. And then we received one bid for a fencing project that our budget we had estimated to be $150,000, and the one bid that we received was 7 times higher than that. So it's kind of created some challenges in how we approach the 23 budget, but we think we have kind of a well-developed and thoughtful document to put in front of y'all in July. So I guess the question I have for council is, do you agree with the assumptions? Is there something missing that you were expecting? Any feedback would be welcome.
Councilor Dumont.
Thank you. With the 750,000, if the assumption of a 50% return on the south end, is that permanent reduction, permanent not having 50, or is that just for this year? We'd have to find 750 somewhere else, because what we're hearing from the CRA is they're not getting the city departments are backed up on getting a lot of stuff done, so they're not able to give the CRA the budget information they need to be able to adequately address it in their budget, which then lets us know if we need to go somewhere between 50 and I think it's 75% that we're working on now. So when will we know when that solidifies a little bit more?
I'm not sure I can give you a timetable. What I can tell you is that there is no amendment to the TIF. So each year we budget the return is 1 year only. But I will tell you that the 5-year projections in the general fund are anticipating that into the 5 and 10 year outlook. And then also looking at the south end redevelopment cash flows, we are also anticipating that 50%. So kind of the plans that we're making, we are making with the understanding that that money will be returned each and every year. And we were able to put together the 5-year CIP for the south end, the projects that are already in the plan and that the agency is discussing, with the understanding that we'd still do a 50% return.
And when you're looking at those, the 5-year plan and the capital outlays into the future, how much have you added to the original costs of these programs, of all of the items?
So the public works is kind of the largest driver of the capital projects in the redevelopment districts. And they have significantly increased their project estimates this year based on some studies that they've recently concluded. So we're seeing like 30% increases in some of those projects, and it still can be achieved within the plan and with the reduction.
And is that only public works, or are you doing a 30%, an expected 30% increase in all capital improvements over the next 5 years for all departments?
So the methodology that we use is when we develop the 5-year improvement plan, we sit down with each department in March to go over it. But leading up to that, from January through February, the departments are updating their cost estimates. And I would say each department was very thoughtful in their 5-year CIP plan. And what's driving the South End redevelopment budget is largely the public works, but then also we've got some parks projects. And I think the parks team was pretty thoughtful about what projects are yet remaining and what maintenance efforts that they have.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Meza.
Yes, Ashley, I just have a couple questions on the budget challenges. Well, mostly, I guess, concerns on the 0 responses to the downtime bike parking and site. Is there a reason why we didn't get no response? Is it because it wasn't worth their time, money? I mean, I don't know um, what's causing them to not put out bid or take the job.
I'm not sure I have a good answer for that. I think it was a surprise to us that we didn't get any responses. And now procurement and public works and redevelopment are kind of working closely together to come up with some ideas to find ways to kind of engage contractors to complete this work, maybe approaching it a different way or in two different parts. But I'm sorry to say I don't know why we didn't get any response. I think it's kind of the marketplace right now. This wasn't appealing.
Yeah, I guess. And the other concern I have is I know, the bid was 150,000. They came back 7 times higher. Are you in the next year, in the next 5 years, are you going to prepare for some of these circumstances where we're budgeting a certain amount and then comes back 2, 3, 4, 5 times the amount? Are we going to be able to prepare for that?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take that one, Ashley. We're trying to look for what are considered outliers versus what are considered normal increases. When you take a look at the fencing bid in particular, the fact that we only got one bid and it was 7 times higher than what we had estimated, and given the fact that the one bidder was the person who gave us the quote from the year before, that tells us that's an outlier. That shouldn't be the norm for what we should pay for fencing prices. But to get your first question, why did we only receive one bid that was 7 times higher than what it should be? So, we're trying to make conscious decisions of where we are required to move forward with work and the work is subjective in nature, where we can hold off a little bit. I can tell you in the case of what Jason and his park staff are doing with the fencing, they're going to go in and do some very strategic repairs in certain locations, but potentially hold off on doing the full fence replacement until there's some stabilization in the ability to get materials and we see more bidders coming to the table and some competition in the market. So we're really handling them on a case-by-case basis. And in some instances where we know the prices will be higher because of market demands, we are making those budgets available. And in the area that they're way out of whack, in some cases, we're making the decision to potentially hold off a little bit before proceeding with the work for the purchase.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Seeing no other questions on budget assumptions, Ashley, do you want to roll into the workshop schedule?
Sure. So as part of the agenda packet, we have a proposed schedule for the budget showcase, the workshops, and the budget adoption. And this is following the format that we've used in past years, where we have our kind of kickoff showcase the last Friday in July, and then have a series of 4 workshops, the first Monday and Tuesday and the second Monday and Tuesday in August. And right now we're tentatively earmarking Tuesday, September 4th or September 6th for our first hearing, and then Monday, September 12th for our second budget hearing. But the budget hearing dates are subject to change because according to state statutes, the county and the school district have first preference of dates. And so the other taxing authorities have to move their hearings to not be in conflict. So we don't know exactly when those 2 hearings are scheduled yet, so we will keep you posted. But we wanted to get some feedback from the council if this is a calendar that is acceptable or if we should consider making any changes.
Councilmember Jansen.
I think, without having my calendar right at hand, around August 11th, and I don't know if it includes 12th, is the annual Florida League of Cities conference, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around that time.
That's August 11th, you thought?
Yeah, somewhere around there. Chris Wright had just sent me an email about that.
11th to the 13th.
Yeah, that's it. So that would fall right in that.
So we should be okay, though, if we do Tuesday the 9th and then August 9th And then the next one's not until September 6th.
Okay, yeah, that's good then.
Yeah.
Disregard.
Okay, thank you.
And by the way, Ashley, you're doing a fantastic job as always. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the budget workshop other than try to get you down into the stormwater vault during the budget showcase?
Question,
date-
just every year, this is one of the, graduation is on the Friday, and I'm not sure which number we're going to be. Usually our program is one of the morning ones. I'm hoping we're not the afternoon one. So the last 9 years, I've been getting out early enough to get to the, I guess 10, 11 years, however many years, to get to the budget thing. But you might be in, if I'm late, you might be down in a storm drain, and I'll just hang out in the city hall waiting for y'all.
Okay, and
And then on the Tuesday, there's the 29th, the 2nd. Where did I see the 2nd? Tuesday, the police department review. I might have to jump out of that one a little early. I have, if students have an issue, the final's the next day. So I need to be available to the students that night in case any of them have any issues with grant writing. Thanks.
gotcha. Mayor Hoffman?
I just wanted to see your graduation conflict and raise you. I get to go in a stormwater vault for my birthday. Thank you, Ashley. That was a great presentation. I'm looking forward to the subsequent department presentations.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions or comments. So Ashley, I think you're good. You got the direction you're looking for?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. With that, we'll move on to the third item, which is a discussion of a proposed J-bill, the 4COP special restaurant licensing, I think now referred to as the SFS instead of the former SRX. For that, I will turn it over to Christian Popoli. Just as a reminder to council, you had asked us to put together some bullet points or a little bit of a rough outline of what a potential program would look like. So with that, Christian will walk you through what we put together.
All right, good evening. As you guys are aware, we've looked at a couple of cities, predominantly Jacksonville, but also some other communities that have done something similar. They all seem to have some consistency with, targeted areas, typically walkable areas, places that had, a stock of commercial spaces that might be smaller. And then there was typically some type of relationship between a reduction in seats and a reduction in square footage. We've just kind of outlined some ideas for that. It's really kind of fluid. We don't have, frankly, a lot of commercial spaces that are consistently one size. Like when I dealt with Riverside, there were a lot of spaces that were in the 1,000 square foot commercial space or 1,500, something like that. So it was pretty easy to zero in on that. But so we've got some ideas on, seats as well as square footages. And then also looking at, if we're going to reduce some of these sizes, maybe looking at reducing operating hours for, late operation to get at some of those concerns with restaurants and name only. I did want to make a point. One of the things that I've seen in the past, even though we allocate a square footage and a number of seats, there isn't always a direct correlation between those two things. Best example we could come up with here was Oku Sushi. They struggled to hit 150 seats, but they have almost 4,200 square feet of area just for the restaurant. And the reason for that is the downstairs is pretty much just a bar, and they have an enormous restaurant because they serve a lot of fresh, seafood and things like that. So they've got a lot of refrigeration and things that took up a large chunk of square footage. So the type of restaurant and the number of seats and how they allocate that space all kind of play into it. So I don't know that there's a perfect one size fits all umbrella, but the intent was to try and come up with some thing to discuss with regards to size and seats and square footage.
Does council have any questions for Christian?
Obviously, we'd like some feedback and direction.
Councilor Meza?
Uh, yes, thank you so much for putting this together. I'm actually kind of glad we're doing this. My concern is just the Rhino part, the restaurant and name only, and obviously the what they attempt to do after midnight. If we were to come up with something, is there any way to add in there to where their kitchen must remain open if they were to get, let's say, the after hours permit and not turn into a bar or a club after midnight if they were to become a restaurant or a Rhino? Is there anything that we could do in that?
Yeah, I don't know that it 100% has to be in the resolution or even on the state level for the bill, because they're really just changing the parameters for our benefit. But we would fully expect to have some local language in our code that would address, the area, which again, we're proposing the central business district as a targeted area. And so if you would meet these qualifications, these would be the restrictions on you. Otherwise, you just have to meet the normal SRX or
Okay.
special use, whatever it's called.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
I'll go next, I guess, if no one else is going. No, I like it. I think this would be great for our downtown. I think it'll really stimulate the potential for locally owned small businesses. I 100% agree that, I don't believe real restaurants need to stay open past midnight. If they're there to serve food and also have alcohol with your meal, I have no problem with that. So, my expectation is the kitchen won't be open the whole time that they are operating. If you look at our beaches to the north, they typically close at, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock for some of the places, but, that's kind of what I'm modeling. Trying to visualize 800 square feet. That seems pretty small. I was kind of thinking 50 seats and 1,000 square feet. Because I'm kind of trying to picture if we do parking garages or something with retail on the bottom, that would be a couple places in those. So I'm good with it. I'm good with it being in the downtown business district. I'm not opposed to it being other places throughout the city, along Beach Boulevard and 3rd Street. Especially if they're going to be utilized as restaurants and not as bars. But I in the areas that I've looked at that have utilized this, it's worked very well. And my goal is to get, people to be able to graduate from food trucks into small brick and mortar, because it seems very, very difficult to jump right into 2,500 square feet that it's currently at, and 150 seats. And, and I love that our local residents to have the opportunity to be able to start restaurants, at least take a shot without, walking into a $7,000 or $8,000 a month lease. So I think it's good. And, and along with that, with our other residents having a vested interest in our downtown, their neighbors and their friends in our community start utilizing our downtown and having like I said, having a vested interest down here and really belonging to the residents of Jacksonville Beach, where I don't feel it's necessarily the case right now.
Thank you. Councilor Jansen.
Christian, quick question for you. Do you see any advantages for us being consistent with Jacksonville at the 100 seats and 1,800 square feet as they have? Just, is there any benefit to the beaches being consistent with downtown or no?
I don't know that it helps or hurts. It really, in their case, it was targeted towards sort of an average building size. And in a lot of cases, those are places that have a lot of existing commercial stock. So you could do an analysis of square footages and things like that. We're looking at, kind of a future in a lot of cases for the business district. But I think it would probably take a little bit more analysis to come up with the sweet spot. But I think you need to leave enough room for flexibility, but you don't want to create something that really incentivizes anybody to be able to take advantage of it as well. So I don't know that 1,800 or 1,000 is the sweet spot. Like I said, we kind of just based it roughly on a proportion, but I think it should be unique to what we have here and how it will benefit us. I don't think it relates to Jacksonville directly.
Sure. Yeah, I tend to lean towards the 100 seats and 1,800 square feet, but if we can make a case for something else, then I'm all ears.
Councilor Nichols.
Yeah, I prefer something smaller. I mean, I'm fine with the 5,800 or 50 seat, 1,000 square feet. Like I said, my goal is to allow, people that are chefs or people that are wanting to be, have a restaurant, be able to have that opportunity. And but they're not going to own the buildings typically, so they're going to have to lease. And at 100, reducing from 150 to 100, I think it just excludes a lot of people. I think 50 seats is the right number, and I think they have that in some of the recent ones around Jacksonville. I think they've done different things around Jacksonville in this last year. I think they did a 50 and a 75 or something like that.
Yeah, they have some that are targeted to specific neighborhoods.
Exactly. Yep. It just kind of depends on the neighborhood.
Councilor Dumont.
Thank you. I would prefer this lower number of seats. 100 seats is 25 four tops, and that's a lot for a restaurant. 25 four tops, you're looking at least 5-6 wait staff, not including bar and kitchen, and that's a good size. So I would say between 50 and 75. If you look at the verbiage above it, the square footage is in the service area. And so that would be in the actual where people can dine. And so I'm comfortable with 800 or 1,000 for the 50. It also helps to not turn it into a bar. The rhino, a little baby rhino. So I think that's a nice little protection against what we don't want to have happen. I think the 100 seat, 1,600 square feet, that's just too big, I think, for what it is that we're really trying to target here. The 50, 75 is more along what I'm picturing as a small startup restaurant moving, as Corey says, from food truck to brick and mortar.
If it helps any, the service area is defined in the state alcohol license language to basically be the entire structure. So it includes the kitchen and the floor itself.
Okay, then I can see 800 to 1,000, because if you're a restaurant, you're going to need some kitchen. If you're a good restaurant, you're going to need a decent kitchen.
Yeah, we were having this debate about, Oku versus Waffle House and how much space you actually need. Depends greatly on the type of restaurant and what you serve.
It's amazing what Engine 15 pulls out of that one little area that they do back there.
Yeah, Hoptinger as well.
And Christian, just to go back to something that you said to start off this conversation, I think you and planning probably still need to take a little bit focused look to try and come up with something very specific to our central business district based on existing sizes, correct?
Well, I'd like to look at it. I think one of the things that we've discussed is that practically there isn't a tremendous opportunity for a lot of spaces right now. So some of this would inform how people would choose to develop in the future with their retail spaces. So I think it's a mix, but I mean, I personally would like to look at it a little bit more just so we know, if there's 12 800 square foot spaces, maybe that makes sense. But I think having some general direction of, looking at 50 seats and roughly 1,000 square feet puts us in the right direction.
Okay. I'm not seeing any more hands raised on this, but I think you probably got the direction you were looking for.
All right. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Christian.
Thank you.
With that, we'll turn over the next item to, I believe, Taylor Mobbs, who's going to talk a little bit about the CRA Art Advisory Committee. Taylor, it's yours.
Right. Thank you. Good evening. So the CRA has been working to implement a lot of the Dix Hike plans. And one of those is the art master plan for the downtown. Something we found relatively early on in working to implement this was that none of us were professional artists, nor did any of us staff or the board have experience in art. So we decided to move forward with implementing an advisory committee. They do not have any governing power. They're purely there to make recommendations to the board and staff. And so staff moved forward with interviews and selected 7 preferred candidates that we took back to the CRA last month, and they unanimously approved them. We were able to capture folks from different backgrounds. So we've got artists, we've got educators, we've got branding, marketing professionals. We actually have someone who is experienced in fabrication and installation of art. So we really feel like we captured a very wide variety of individuals. And they will be meeting the 3rd Thursdays of the month, potentially more as needed as we dive deeper into this. We're just quite frankly not sure what frequency we're going to need until we kind of fine tune things a little bit. Their first meeting will be June the 16th from 3 to 5 in council chambers. And at that meeting, we will be going over some exhibits that staff has recommended to focus on. And then going over the creation of sort of operating procedures and how things will look moving forward with this committee and how we will begin implementing this art plan.
Councilor Nichols.
I was just wondering why we didn't choose to in some way include the Cultural Council. My understanding is they've done a fantastic job throughout city of Jacksonville, and I believe that they bring in a lot of they get a lot of contributions and stuff too from outside, and they've just got really, really high level people that are specifically engaged with public art.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we want to add them as a resource to this group. I mean, I'm not opposed to this group, but we do have we do have access to a group that specializes in this, and I don't think there would be any significant cost, or even if there is a cost.
Okay.
But I think they would also help raise money for certain things. So we might actually get a benefit out of it as well.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. That's something I'll look into. Thank you.
Mayor Kaufman.
On that, I know Mason Martin was someone who used to be involved with the Cultural Council's Art Public Places, and I know that's someone who's talked to the Southern group, and I believe our staff as well. So I know she's kind of put herself out as a resource. To your point, Corey, I doubt that they would be in a position to raise money since they're implementing the Art and Public Places Fund that already exists and is funded. But I did want to say that it's kind of timely that this came up in this meeting, because a few years ago, I suggested, and I don't think we were ready for this as a city, but we certainly are now, that we could use bike racks as an opportunity for public art. So it'd be more of a functional public art, and the UNF sculpture program has made bike racks that are all over downtown Jacksonville and of course all over the UNF campus. So this may be an opportunity to combine both a need that we've established that is not being met through the bidding process, but also to implement some of our public art funds through this committee with UNF, who's probably readily available if we work with them on that.
Yes, and we've actually got the gallery director as one of our board members. So we're very excited to work with her and expand this.
And Jenny Hager, I don't know if she ever applied, but she is a Jacksonville Beach resident who runs that sculpture program. So she's got a vested interest in that as well. Getting all the right people at the table.
Yes.
Counselor Golding.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm really excited about this, and I was really excited to see the diversity in the backgrounds of the people that you have on the board. So I look forward to seeing what the board comes up with and what they're able to do. So thank you guys for doing this.
Thank you.
Counselor Nichols.
And my main concern is the potential art piece at the entrance to the pier, that it is going to be an iconic piece. I wasn't in love with the big surfboard. I think the giant chair is a potential for disaster with people trying to climb it. I'd like to come up with something pretty amazing, but you know, that's the one piece that I'm concerned about.
Okay.
Seeing no other hands on this topic, thank you, Taylor.
Yep. Thank you.
Turn our last item of the evening over to the Planning and Development Director, Heather Ireland. She's going to talk a little bit about the scope of services for the comp plan and LDC review. Heather, it's yours.
Great, thank you, Mike. Good evening, everyone. So in your memo, you have some more detailed information about the scope of services and our proposed workshop outline for the comp plan and LDC update project. Refresh everyone's memory. We've selected, staff through the process has selected Kimley Horn to complete this project for us. And what we really wanted to get from council today was your comfort level with the number of public hearings that are being proposed. So there are 2 attachments to your memo that outline the different workshops at different phases of the projects, and then an updated schedule that starts in June as opposed to May as we work out some of these details with the consultant. So what we're proposing is really an initial series of workshops, as you see on the attachment that is the kind of the colored matrix. Initial workshops with citizens, staff, our boards, council business owners, and the CRA. And then workshops as we go through the process, kind of at midpoints. And then several different workshops and hearings towards the end of the project before we ever even get to adoption of these documents, which is going to take obviously some time. Around 18 months is what we've anticipated for this project. The way we were viewing this is that we know there's a lot of individual topics that may come up that need a little bit more attention and time that staff is prepared to work with council directly on. Those could be things like parking, landscaping, accessory structures, things like that, that we may or may not need the consultant for, which is why we've built in a little bit of a contingency to this project so we can grab them as needed. Otherwise, we feel that staff would be able to take on some of those more in-depth conversations with you guys on an as-needed basis. But wanted to get your thoughts on this proposed schedule and see if this level of community involvement was what you were looking for, and if not, where can we tweak it to get to your comfort level. So I'm happy to answer any questions about this proposed schedule and process.
Counselor Jansen.
The schedule looks good to me. I like the way it's laid out, and I like it looks pretty well balanced. I don't have any questions about it. I think we should move forward with something like this.
Mike, you're on mute still.
Yeah. Mayor Hoffman.
I agree. I think this looks great, and I'm really excited to see the final adoption in March 2023, to see that the end point there is very exciting after as long as we've been talking about this. So thank you for having them put this together. This is really helpful.
Counselor Golding.
I definitely like the number of workshops that are proposed and the audiences, I guess, that you're focusing on having the workshops with. And I like the idea of the fact that you're open to having additional workshops that maybe the staff will do to try to dig a little deeper into some of the areas that we may want to dig into. So, I think the more opportunities for public involvement is always the better.
Agreed.
Heather, I'm not seeing any more hands. I think you got what you were looking for on this one too.
Yep. Thank you guys very much.
Okay, so while that takes care of our 5 scheduled items, I do have one item to get some input from you on. In having conversations with the mayor and Director Ireland about an additional height open house in support of a possible charter amendment at some point in the future. There's 2 dates that we've started looking at, both of which would supplant an upcoming council briefing, looking at either Monday, July 11th or Monday, July 25th. Is there any heartburn with having it on either of those dates?
For the dates again?
Monday, July 11th or Monday, July 25th? Counselor Jansen?
I think I'm good for both of those days right now.
Okay.
I'm good with either.
Okay. Yeah, if we've got a majority or a quorum that can be there, I think we can lock in either of those 2 dates. If any of you do run into an issue with either of the dates, please kick me an email in the next day or 2. With that being said, are there any committee assignments that any individuals want to report out on? Hearing none, are there any future topic? Mayor Hoffman, you're trying to keep me from beating Karen's record of 45 minutes.
No, I'm not. I'm sorry. It's not a committee assignment or update. I just want to remind everybody about the Altitude Trampoline Park opening, if anyone can make it, as well as the Memorial Day event at the Beaches Veterans Park. I'm going to be out of town, so I can't make either one, but it's always nice to have a strong showing at both of those types of events. So if you can make it, please do.
Okay. Any future briefing topics any council members want to throw out there? With that being said, our meeting is done and I beat Karen by 1 minute. Thank you all very much. And we'll see you all next Monday for our regular council meeting. Have a good evening.
Here's a milkshake next council meeting.
No, we're not having a council meeting next Monday, are we?
No, that's right. We're not.
Yeah.
My bad.
And no briefing either, right?
That's correct.
So we get a day off.
You get a day off.
All right.
Have a good evening, everyone.